This is Matt Hurt at Obsessive Viewer on Twitter, and this is ObsessiveViewer.com's The Obsessive Viewer Podcast. Hello and welcome to The Obsessive Viewer. We're a movie and TV podcast that covers a specific topic, be it genre, trope, movie, or show each episode. You can find more of our work at ObsessiveViewer.com and more podcasts presented by Obsessive Viewer at ObsessiveViewer.com/podcasts. And if you'd like to support what we do here, you can donate at ObsessiveViewer.com/donate, or you can become a patron at Patreon.com/ObsessiveViewer, where we have 4 different reward tiers set up. So at the $1 a month level, you get access to over 150 exclusive B-roll episodes that range from just kind of us goofing around and talking to us doing like more kind of potpourri-esque things. And we did one where Mike and I did our top 5 favorite songs, so that was a lot of fun. At the $2 a month level, you get that plus TV and book reaction reviews and stuff. So I've been doing Stephen King short fiction collections on there. I dropped the ball a little bit, but I'm going to get back into that soon. But hopefully by the end of the year, I'll have all of his short fiction collections completed on that level, so at the $2 level. And then at $5, you get all of that plus movie commentary tracks and immediate reaction reviews of just my immediate thoughts of movies that I like as I'm driving home from the movie theater. So there's a lot of fun stuff there. And then finally, at $10 a month, you get all of that plus early access to content and previously unreleased episodes and everything. So, again, that's all at patreon.com/obsessiveviewer. I'm your host, the aforementioned Matt Hurt, and joining me today, making his triumphant return, is Mr. Sam Watermeier from Midwest Film Journal. I know, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Welcome back.
Thank you. Third time's a charm.
Yes.
I think we started with Malignant, and then we did The Matrix Resurrections, and now we're on the Batman. So we haven't really had any stinkers, and the Batman's not a stinker, despite what some people are saying. Yeah. It rules.
He is a bit of a scamp, though, but he's not a stinker. So I'm super excited to have you back. Thank you for... I must say thank you for having me. Thank you for having me on my podcast. And
you're welcome.
Yeah, and as you said, we're gonna be talking about the Batman today, which is Matt Reeves. I almost said Christopher Reeve. Where am I at today?
Kind of connected.
Yeah, sort of.
Same superhero universe.
Yeah. So Matt Reeves, new. I get unconnected to the DCEU Batman movie that finally just came out, or is coming out this week. And like, this movie is, I'm super excited to talk to you about it, Sam, because we were both really, really excited to see it. And yeah, it's, it slaps, as the kids say. So, I'm excited to talk to you about it. Yeah, did you want to kind of like, I don't know where to start. Do
you want to maybe start? I mean, it's your show.
Oh,
I don't
please.
Horn in, but maybe start with like our history, our Batman cinematic history.
Yes, absolutely. And I have this thing where every time like I watch anything Batman related, I'm just like, this is like the greatest character in fiction, and I need to go back and watch everything. So so it'll be interesting. But we are going to be talking about the Batman. We're going to do a non-spoiler and spoiler section. Actually, before we get into all of that, Sam, can you tell people where they can find you online, on Letterboxd, and anything recently that you've done since the last time you were on the show?
Yes. You can find my reviews at midwestfilmjournal.com. You can also find me on Letterboxd at Sam Movie Man. Mm-hmm. Those reviews are less formal, obviously. But yeah, that's where I'm at online. Let's see. The last movie I reviewed was Jackass Forever
Oh
for
yeah.
Midwest Film Journal.
Mm.
I liked that one quite a bit. I thought
Nice.
as always, the camaraderie between those guys is very endearing,
Mm.
and it's fun to see them throw caution to the wind, and
Huh.
uh, especially now, it's kind of weird to see them doing all of these dangerous stunts amid
Mm.
COVID when, other people can't be bothered to wear a piece of fabric on their face.
Yeah.
The Jackass guys are out there shooting themselves out of cannons
Yeah.
and uh, taking tasers to the tongue and
Mhm.
whatnot. So I enjoyed that quite a bit. That was the last movie I reviewed.
Nice. That's really, that's really interesting that because I've never really been into Jackass or anything, and I've always like wondered, like, I don't see the appeal of it, to be honest. Um, but yeah, like when you mention like, oh, the camaraderie among them, like, okay, I can see that being like kind of a road into those movies. I don't know if I'll ever bother to see them, but that's interesting. I never really considered that aspect of the movie.
Yeah, they kind of prey upon each other's fears. Like
Hmm.
in Jackass 2, Bam Margera is deathly afraid of snakes, and
Hmm.
they, trick him into doing a stunt completely unrelated to snakes. But of course, they throw a snake in there. And I
Nice.
mean, it's a little mean, but it's
Yeah.
also pretty funny.
Nice. It's funny because uh, I feel like it's another example of like earmarking your growth as a human being, but like I remember like as a kid, like I think I'd watched Jackass maybe a couple times on TV, and then as I've grown, I've just been like, yeah, I'm not really into that or anything. And then this time when I started seeing the trailers for Jackass Forever and everything, I kept thinking like I was really wondering, and maybe you can answer this. I don't know if you know anything about the production or anything, but like I'm wondering, like how does that work from an insurance perspective, and from like how much are they doing? How much are they doing, and how much of it is like how much of it is stunt? How much of it is actual like dangerous stuff? I know that everything is probably set up and everything in such a way that it's obviously not going to be really in mortal danger or anything, but like how do they do that?
Well, this one, I'm not entirely sure of the process, but this
Mm-hmm.
one wisely shows the safety procedures that they put in place. For
Ah,
example, one of the guys is stuck in a room with a bear,
yeah.
and there's a cut to the bear handler who's right outside the door, just a few feet away.
Oh.
So this one kind of smartly shows how they're on top of safety.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's still not the safest thing in the world you
Right.
could do. The bear could still maul the guy, but
Mm-hmm.
at least there's a wrangler right there.
Yeah.
Um, I think obviously they have to. They always have an out. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, they drive it to the extreme, but
Yeah.
you never see the guys tortured that much. I mean, when they
Yeah.
say they want out of there, they let them out of there.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think it's quite as cruel as some might think it is, but
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know how they get away with some of the stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when they like ruin an entire store,
Oh yeah.
or like drive a car through a dealership. I mean, obviously these guys are doing pretty well financially,
Yeah.
so they can afford to pay damages and stuff. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I don't know. The insurance process is a little mysterious,
Yeah.
a
That's
little
interesting.
suspect.
Nice. Yeah, maybe I will check them out at some point. I don't know. I've got a lot of stuff to watch anyway. So, yeah. Yeah, okay. So, um and so before we get into the actual review proper, I kind of want to just ask you this up front: was the Batman your most anticipated movie of 2022?
Oh, without a doubt.
Okay.
I've watched every version of the trailer,
Yeah.
like even the TV spots,
Mm-hmm.
an
Nice.
embarrassing amount of times. I've spent so much time watching these trailers. It's really That's shameful.
Yeah.
I just I just thought it looked so cool.
Mhm.
It's you know, I think I mean, right from the trailer that used Nirvana's Something in the
Mhm.
Way, I was hooked. I'm a huge 90s grunge fan,
Yeah.
so I was a sucker for that. I loved that kind of the sort of moody noir
Mhm.
atmosphere that it seemed to have. I uh, it just struck me as a completely different Batman that we haven't
Mhm.
really seen before. Um, and yeah, I've been super excited to see it.
Yeah, I echo those sentiments a lot. Like when that first trailer came out in like 2020, and like I remember at the end of the trailer, it showed like 20 I think it said 2021 because that was when it was originally supposed to be released, or was it supposed to be 2020? I don't remember. But it says
It was interrupted by COVID. Yeah.
yeah, but it had, instead of twos, it had question marks, and I remember people online saying like, "This is the most accurate movie trailer," because we don't know when the hell this movie's gonna come out.
Right.
But yeah, that first trailer just got me, and then I've been looking forward to it as well, and yeah, I was super excited to see it. I almost didn't make it to see it. Um, like this
Oh yeah, you had
movie.
a little fender bender, didn't you?
Well, yes and no. Well, yes, but like, okay, let me just walk through it. So,
Okay.
so I went. We had a press screening on Thursday, and because this is just how I am as a person, apparently, but I can't, for the life of me, get ready and leave at the time that I want to leave all times. So, like, I have to be running late and everything. I'm just insane like that. I hate it about myself, honestly, but I left with enough time to get to the movie theater, and then I kept, like, I think I hit traffic or something, and then I got there, I got to the theater, literally, like, and I got in the theater right when the WB logo was on the screen, and the movie was starting. Like,
Oh wow.
yeah, I barely got, like, I sat in the back row, and like I was nervous because it was dark. I didn't know how many of us had shown up or anything, but like it was dark, and like I took my phone out, and like, I was looking to see if I was gonna bump into anyone as I got to my seat, but yeah, and it was funny because like I just sat in like the first couple of seats in the back row, and it was like pitch black in it, and I was like, okay, well, when the movie lightens up and I can see if there's anyone in the row, I'll just move down to the center. And then, like, because it's Batman, I couldn't see until like maybe 10 minutes into the movie.
Yeah, it's not a movie that quickly lightens up,
Yeah, no, not
visually
so
or
much.
thematically.
Exactly. So, but I made it. I saw it. I loved it. And yeah, and then afterwards, I went, like, I ran errands and stuff, and then I got in the shower, and I fell out of the shower. Like,
Oh
I
my god.
slipped and fell. I tried to grab the shower curtain.
Jackass.
Yeah, yeah. And the entire like shower rod came out, and like I'm like falling forward, and
Oh shit.
I put my hand on like the counter, but my hand is wet, so I slide it off of that, and then I fall forward even more, and I think that there was like a millisecond where I was completely airborne and like perpendicular to the floor. And
That
like I
must have
just
looked hilarious.
Oh, I'm sure it did. and then I just fell flat on the floor right in front of the toilet, and I'm just like lying
Oh
there.
no.
Yeah, and I'm like, thank God I didn't like hit my head or anything, but I'm like lying there, and I'm like, what a fucking idiot. But and then I'm just lying there, and I'm like, this hurts, but I'm okay, and everything's fine. And then like like yesterday I noticed like my whole like right arm is bruised. But anyway, so that was, and also when I went to the screening, I wore a Batman shirt, and like that is like the opposite of what Batman would do, is fall out of the shower. but yeah, but then last night there was a preview screening that I was going to go to, and I was going to take Tiny to as my plus one, and then he and I were going to record for Patreon afterward. But I again was running late, and Then like 2 cars ahead of me, someone stopped abruptly, and then the car in front of me stopped abruptly, and then I stopped abruptly, and then the person behind me stopped just slightly less abruptly and hit me in the back of the car. Fortunately, it wasn't bad. It was all like, it was cosmetic. Like, it was fine. Nothing, like, we agreed, like, hey, we're just going to go our separate ways. It's fine. There's no like damage. Everything is fine. But then I was like I called Tiny and I was like, Tiny, I was just in a car accident. Can you come here? I don't know what to do. And so like he turned around and was on his way. And then like after like I talked to the woman, I was like, oh wait, this is fine. Okay. So I get back in the car and I called Tiny. I was like, hey, we settled it. It's all good and everything. Do you still want to go? And then he's like, well, we're probably going to be late anyway. I'm like, yeah, okay, that's fine. So I missed that one. So my theory is that I am cursed with regard to the Batman. Yeah. So I don't know. But anyway.
That's funny.
Yeah. So like, I want to see it again in either Dolby or IMAX, but now I'm scared to get a ticket and go see it because I don't know what the hell will happen when I do, but yeah.
You'll die in the theater.
Exactly. Just as Matt Reeves intended.
Wouldn't be a terrible way to go.
It really wouldn't. And some detractors of the movie might think so too. Like, get me out of here. Yeah. So let's talk about our histories with Batman. And Sam, like, what is your history with the Caped Crusader?
Well, Batman holds a special place in my heart cinematically because Batman Forever is the first movie I actually saw in the theater, or at least it's my earliest movie-going memory.
Okay, nice. This wasn't the movie that you were like born in, was it?
No, my mom went into labor with me in The Godfather Part 3.
Oh, that's right.
So let's see, Batman Forever came out in 95, so I would have been 4.
Okay.
Pretty good first movie.
Yeah.
I would say for a kid.
Mm-hmm.
So you know, it's special to me in my film history. Nice. And of course I grew up on the Tim Burton Batman movies. You know, Michael Keaton is my Batman.
Nice.
I watched those over and over again when I was a kid, especially Batman Returns. That is one wacky movie. I love it's basically Tim Burton unplugged. It's kind of a miracle that it was even made and released because it's so crazy. I mean, there's this weird erotic tension between Catwoman and the Penguin. You know, there's penguins with missiles strapped on their backs. I
forgot about that.
Black bile oozing out of the penguin's mouth. There's that crazy German expressionistic style. You know, it takes place on during the Christmas season, yet the movie was released in the summer. Like, it's just that movie's nuts.
Yeah.
And I've just always loved the character. I loved Batman the Animated Series. I think the world of Batman has always appealed to me. He has maybe the greatest rogues gallery of villains.
Oh yeah.
That are all, you know, very visually striking. I mean, you have the Joker with the clown makeup, obviously the Penguin, Catwoman, you know, they're all just as kind of visually interesting and mentally fucked up as Batman himself. And I think that kind of the world of Batman has always been about sort of the outlandishness of crime and kind of like the otherworldly nature of not only criminals, but, you know, vigilantes. You know, Batman is kind of bizarre. You know, he's this billionaire playboy, but he dresses up as a bat at night to fight crime. Like, it's just... It's such a really bold character that I think you can place in several different settings and you can use different tones. He works in a campy setting. He works in a gothic setting. He works in gritty reality. So that, I think that would kind of sum up my history with Batman.
Yeah, so it's interesting. I kind of had a slightly different route into Batman for the most part, but I don't think I really became like a big Batman fan until Batman Begins.
Oh wow, late bloomer.
Very late bloomer. Like that was a movie that I'll have an essay on Midwest Film Journal actually this month about Batman Begins. That I don't know if they're going to use the same title, but like the title that I had was Batman Begins and the Watchful Guardian of Speedway, Indiana. because the movie came out like the summer after I graduated high school, and I was like very much like, I'm about to leave to go to college, and I'm leaving Speedway, and Bruce Wayne is saving Gotham, and why am I abandoning my Gotham?
So it's funny.
Yeah, it's really dumb, but anyway, yeah. So like I went into that with relatively low expectations because I didn't know what to expect really. I just knew that Christopher Nolan had directed it and that I was a Christopher Nolan fan from Memento, and I don't think I had seen Following at that point, but yeah, he did The Prestige after Batman Begins, but I was a big fan of Memento, and I came out of that movie like, oh, this is different than I expected. This is really good. Like I was really excited about it. And then I loved the Dark Knight trilogy as a whole as well. And then throughout the years I went back and I watched some of the earlier ones, which kind of back and forth on. I don't have much of a memory of, like, I think I've seen the Tim Burton ones a couple of times, and I think the Schumacher ones like one time. And then throughout the DCEU, they've kind of fumbled that, in my opinion, and it was just not to my liking at all. But in the interim, like, I discovered and loved the Arkham Asylum games from Rocksteady. So they had Arkham Asylum, Arkham City, and Arkham Knight. And then I never played Arkham Origins, but like those games were like, oh my god, I'm Batman now. I'm Batman. Like I'm Batman. And just the lore of that, and that was my road into the Batman the Animated Series as well. Because I mean, like you said, Michael Keaton is your Batman. I'd say mine is a mix between Christian Bale and Kevin Conroy. Because holy crap, that like. I think he's incredible as Batman. And, like I was thinking today, as I was looking forward to this recording and everything, I was like I was listening to the Batman soundtrack, and then I switched over to, MC Chris. He has like 6 or 7 or maybe 9 songs that are all like, they're all like Batman themed. So like, yeah, are you familiar with MC Chris at all?
No, I'm not.
Okay, he's kind of like a nerdcore rapper. But he has a series of songs. Like he has one like EP called Foes or Friends, and then another one called Foes. And so like it's like part 1, part 2, part 3, those are the titles of the songs, but part 1 is his Batman song. It's about the origin of Batman and everything. It's from the perspective of Batman. And then he has a song for Alfred, for Gordon, for Batgirl, for Robin, and then he does villains with Joker and I think Riddler, and a couple others that I can't think of, but like it's hilarious. Like it's really fun, and it's like patterned. I think it's mostly patterned after the animated series and everything. But I was listening to that today, and the song, I think it's part 5 or part 6, I don't remember, but it's the Batgirl song. It's like from the perspective of Robin having a crush on her, and like part of the lyrics are, when I see her yellow boots, it makes me want to something. Let me see. But it's really, really funny. And like I kept thinking, I think that song is called Part 5. But that like it just made me think like they should do like a Barbara Gordon and Dick Grayson like romantic comedy kind of movie. But yeah, I think I should have that. But yeah, there's some really good songs on there, and there's like YouTube videos where they play the music as part of or with video accompanying it from the animated series. So anyway, yeah, so I'm a big fan of Batman in general. Okay, here we go. So the lyrics are where is it? There's okay. This is how we do. It has always been us two. We're a duo, not a crew. That's all changed now. There's a team that's on the team. This girl makes me want to cream, want to move inside her cape while she goes face down. When I see her yellow boots, something in me starts to move. Every time we're on her roof, I feel great. Wow. But it's really funny. But anyway, so that was kind of my route into Batman the Animated Series, MC Chris, and the Arkham games. And like, I just feel like I agree with you completely. The Rogues Gallery is amazing. Batman as a concept, as a character, is so rich and so literally rich, but he's also very. There are so many kind of different applications that you can have him in and everything, and different ways to tell his story. And I just think it's awesome. And then I read all of the New 52. Which I don't really read comic books that much, but like that, I was just hooked on. I was really engaged by. So yeah. Anyway, so that's my kind of Batman origin story, I guess.
We're very different, which is cool.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Did you ever play the Arkham games?
I've never been much of a gamer, honestly.
Yeah. That's fair. Fair. Oh no, that's fine. I will say those games are just fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. And it's really cool because like you can, at least in Arkham Knight and maybe a couple of the other games, you can they have DLC like skins, so you can like play, like you can have Batman as like the New 52 Batsuit, or the animated series Batsuit, or the Batman 66 Batsuit, and like all these different ones. Yeah, it's really cool. And then like they also have different skins for the Batmobile, so you can like you can drive the Tumbler in Arkham Knight from Dark Knight, and or Michael Keaton's Batmobile. It's really cool. Now I'm thinking I might have to play those again. But anyway, so yeah, so we were both excited for the Batman, and now it's finally here, and we are going to discuss it. Okay, so are you ready to go into our non-spoiler review for the Batman?
Hell yeah. All
right, let's do it. So the Batman is releasing only in theaters on March 4th, and the plot summary, courtesy of IMDb, is when the Riddler, a sadistic serial killer, begins murdering key political figures in Gotham, Batman is forced to investigate the city's hidden corruption and question his family's involvement. The Batman is directed by Matt Reeves and written by Matt Reeves and Peter Craig, and stars Robert Pattinson as Batman, Zoe Kravitz as Selena Kyle, Paul Dano as Riddler, and Colin Farrell as Penguin, and John Turturro as Carmine Falcone. Oh, and Andy Serkis as Pennyworth as Alfred, and Jeffrey Wright as Gordon.
It's a stacked cast.
It is a stacked cast. It is really, really good. So, let's talk about the Batman. How did you feel, kind of overall thoughts upon seeing the Batman?
I was hooked right from the beginning with the narrated noir style introduction to Batman. The rainy Blade Runner-esque Gotham.
Yes.
Robert Pattinson, his presence was, immediately menacing. I think Batman should be scary. You should be excited to see him, but he should still be intimidating. And I think Robert Pattinson was right from the beginning.
Yeah.
I was thrilled to see it unfold into this sort of 70s-esque detective drama, with him kind of navigating through the underbelly of Gotham and questioning criminals and, teaming up with Catwoman. And, I think this is an interesting take on Bruce Wayne. He's, I referred to him as like emo Batman this time around.
Yeah.
He keeps the goth makeup on when he's in the Batcave, and he's very angsty. Director Matt Reeves said he was inspired by Kurt Cobain. And this movie definitely feels like, Kurt Cobain meets the Zodiac Killer.
Yeah.
With the Zodiac being the Riddler. They're pretty similar in that they both send, ciphers and letters to Batman and the police. I loved this movie's kind of air of dread throughout. By the time it was over, I was just super pumped. And by the way, it's nearly 3 hours long. I was with it the whole time.
Yeah.
It moves at a great clip. It's a great mystery, so you can't wait to see what happens next. I absolutely loved it.
Nice. Yeah, I felt a lot of the same way. There are some things here and there that I was like, oh, I'm forgiving of it, but it was like, okay, I kind of wish it was a little bit different there. But I mean, yeah, like I've seen people kind of complain about the length and everything, which I feel like that's a little, I don't understand that because it's paced very well in my opinion. And there's some really cool change ups in it. Like there are moments during like Riddler moments where every kind of thing that he does, every kind of step of his plan is similar to an extent in terms of like targeting a specific person, but each one is different enough from the last. And when you get into that game of cat and mouse between him and Batman, it feels like it's so organic to the story being told. And when you get into the, like, I'm someone who, whenever I hear like, oh, they're going to do like multiple villains or something, and I'm like, okay, well, yeah, we have Riddler and we have Colin Farrell as the Penguin. I'm like, okay, are they going to do like, I don't know. I get kind of anxious thinking like, is it going to be too cluttered? Is it going to be too crowded and everything? But here it's just really just organic the way that things come together, and it's all kind of interconnected. And also, I did not, for whatever reason, like I just, like my mind was blown just now a little bit because I did not connect with that like rainy aesthetic to like a Blade Runner vibe, and like that's like that opens it up for me because like the cinematography, the visual aesthetic of Gotham is so cool. Like it's so damn cool, and the rain that is like pervasive throughout it is consistent to an extent, but the combination of the rain and the rain, and like there's this, the way that the lighting is just glows through the mist of the rain throughout the whole movie is just gorgeous. Like, yeah, I think it's really, really cool. And yeah,
I think you mentioned in your review, there's this kind of red glow throughout the movie, sort of serving as this, harbinger of doom. And I thought that worked really well.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And the setting also reminded me a little bit of The Crow.
Yeah, definitely.
Not only with the rain and the sort of perpetual perpetual nightfall, but just like I mentioned earlier, that kind of air of dread throughout the movie.
Yeah.
That sense of like impending doom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I loved the introduction of the movie itself, because like I knew that they weren't going to go through the whole rigmarole of the origin story and everything, and I'm glad that they didn't. But I like that they made, not to go too deep into it or anything, I like that they made his story relevant to the story in the movie without having to retread it or have to repeat it or have to show us another goddamn slow motion thing of the pearls and everything, or whatever Zack Snyder did with his vision of it. But like, I just remember being just so annoyed by that. But anyway, yeah, I like the way that it's all kind of interconnected and everything. And that introduction, like you said, that voiceover narration is so, like, that is the perfect way to bring us into this, to his story and everything. And like, I'm sure that there's probably going to be more in this universe. Hopefully Reeves and Pattinson come back and everything, but I want that to be the staple of this trilogy, or however many there's going to be. Like, I want that to be the beginning and end of each movie is his voiceover narration. Because it suits the character so perfectly as this like lonesome vigilante. And in this iteration, like, Bruce and Batman are just like you said, like this angsty, there's this angsty energy, and it comes through really well with that opening narration. It's so cool.
Yeah, and the narration has the vibe of like a journal reading.
Yeah.
Not unlike Travis Bickle's narration in Taxi Driver, I'd say.
Oh yeah.
He's kind of an aspiring vigilante himself, and the movie does have that kind of like 70s vibe. I was reminded a little bit of Taxi Driver, a little bit of Chinatown with the theme of corruption in the city.
Yeah.
A little bit of French Connection. The Zodiac era.
Yeah.
But it didn't feel like just kind of a knockoff of those.
No.
It felt like those influences were, tied in very subtly.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I didn't even make the Taxi Driver connection either. And that's interesting because one of my kind of fears going forward, or kind of concerns, I even said in my review, it's a ridiculous concern to have, but the Batman came after Joker, which Joker was Todd Phillips's Academy Award winning take on Joker, but that is very, very, like, almost to the point of to the point of plagiarism, riffing off of Martin Scorsese's work, and like Taxi Driver and King of Comedy, which I haven't seen, but going from that, and even though this movie is not connected with Joker, having a Batman movie that is so patterned after, like, in the kind of general feel and tone of a David Fincher movie, and in particular very much patterned after Seven, it just made me think, like, okay, well, hopefully they don't hopefully this isn't like a new DC thing where they're like, okay, we're going to do this, but we're going to just transplant Batman characters into a specific, like, classic or critically acclaimed kind of set, and kind of go off of that. But I say that having loved the Batman and having loved the clear influence that Fincher had on it, and not having that be a detracting quality for the movie. It just felt in a couple of scenes a little bit reliant on it, a little too much. But yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good point about the comparison to Joker. I think the difference also is that Joker's obviously not trying to be a crowd pleasing sort of popcorn movie,
Right.
and I think it's trying to be this serious Oscar worthy drama, and I don't think that's what the Batman is trying to be.
No.
I found it very entertaining, very
Yeah.
exciting. It has a pulpy sense of fun.
Hmm.
It's definitely uh, it's not. I can see kids and teenagers enjoying this.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh yeah.
obviously very mature kids, but
Right.
um, yeah, it's definitely not Joker.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. I agree. But it is, yeah, hopefully I'm curious what the next one will be, assuming that we get another one, which is, I would think, likely. I think it's tracking to open pretty well. And for the most part, the critical response has been good. But yeah, so the movie, I just really enjoyed it. How did you feel about the kind of performances overall? Which ones stood out? Which ones do you think needed a little bit more work, if any?
Um, I thought Robert Pattinson was great.
Mm-hmm.
I think as Batman, like I said, he's menacing. Um, uh, I think as Bruce Wayne, I loved. Um, I believe this. He's the youngest Batman.
That sounds right. Yeah.
He's in his 30s. So I love that he does play him as a naive young man. Bruce Wayne is not a perfect genius in this
Right.
movie. He's angsty. He's
Mm-hmm.
temperamental. He flies off the handle. This is only 2 years into his time of being Batman, so he's still trying to figure it out, and
Yeah.
that's what I enjoyed. In I don't remember in Batman Begins Bruce really stumbling all that much,
Yeah.
or making mistakes. He kind of
Yeah.
smoothly segued into being Batman, and I like how this one he is vulnerable and he's imperfect, and
Yeah.
um, I think uh, Zoe Kravitz is great as Catwoman.
Mm-hmm.
I think she brings some sort of levity to it. She, kind of pokes fun at Batman a little bit.
Yeah.
I fucking love Colin Farrell as the Penguin.
Oh yeah.
I love whatever like exaggerated Tony Soprano thing he's trying to do.
Yeah.
He comes across as like a Dick Tracy villain, just like this
Yeah.
kind of grotesque, ridiculous mafioso. I
Mm-hmm.
thought he was a blast.
Yeah.
Paul Dano, I think is a little more effective in the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
Than in the end. He kind of grew less menacing for me.
Mm-hmm.
I think he has a very big presence in the first two acts, and in the third act, he felt kind of small, kind of weak,
Yeah.
at least to me. Jeffrey Wright,
Mm-hmm.
gave a kind of an understated performance, but I think a really effective one. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's what I would say about the main players.
Yeah. It's funny. The kind of fallibility of Batman in this movie is definitely evident. It's not, I think, because it's 2 years into his crime fighting, it's better because when he fails or when he makes mistakes and everything, it's more of it's like it's the learning curve. Like
Yeah.
and that's
Right.
really good. Whereas like in Batman Begins, like Christian Bale's Batman, he did stumble a little bit, but it was also, and like I adore that movie. I will say, like, I like Batman Begins more than the Batman. And that's a hard thing to overcome. Really, like that's a very very high bar to reach. Same with The Dark Knight, but like in that movie, yeah, he stumbles. He has that run in with Scarecrow, and then he, gets like lit on fire or something, but like that's also kind of in service of the story and like furthering the plot, where here it's like, okay, well, I mean, it's the same kind of thing. Like he's like Batman is trying to solve riddles and everything, and like he's trying to get away from a certain place, and like there's this moment where he is escaping from a building, and he gets onto the roof, and he's about to glide off of it, and like the movie doesn't go to great lengths to tell us that like, oh, he hasn't done this before. But it does show us like, oh yeah, he catches himself a little bit. Like he has that brief moment where he's like, oh, okay, I'm going to do this. Let's do this. And then he does it. And then it's like those little moments are so cool. And you have like the movie kind of has this lived in quality to it that I think people might think maybe it's a little reflective of like, okay, the lore of Batman is too strong, like that it's relying on our knowledge of Batman to get the point across. But like when you see like him at a crime scene and Gordon telling him like, oh yeah, that kid, like the kid found the body or something like that, like you inherently know what that means to Bruce under the Batman like mask, because it's just what's like, even if you don't know the origin of Batman or anything, if you've had your head under a rock for like the last 80 years, the performance and the way that the movie shows us that communicates all that you need to know, even for people who aren't familiar with Batman. Yeah, it's just it's really, I think it's really understated and really well done. Kind of the Batman-ness of it.
Yeah, I think that's a good point about how that scene with the kid at the crime scene says a lot with very little. Obviously Batman sees himself in that kid, as he found himself in a now iconic crime scene we all know about. But I've heard some criticisms that the movie doesn't really explore his relationship with Alfred, and I'm not sure it needs to. I mean, we know that relationship.
Yeah.
We know the weight of it. We know their past. We know what they've gone through. They have a few scenes together, and that's enough. I mean, yeah.
And I think that I did have some slight issues with that. Just I felt like that was a little bit underdeveloped or undercooked, but what we get is satisfying enough for me to satisfy that relationship in the movie. And I thought that Andy Serkis did a really good job too. It felt like maybe this is just like accent blindness for me or accent deafness for me, but it just felt like I don't know what Andy Serkis's like normal speaking voice is, but it kind of felt like almost not aping Michael Caine, but it just felt very much like in that Michael Caine kind of vibe from the Dark Knight trilogy, which is fine. But I do like how we get like bits and pieces of their relationship, and it kind of feeds into Bruce taking on this Batman thing all kind of on his own, and it really feeds into that lonesome, angsty kind of character trait in this iteration of Batman, because he's doing that. I'm gonna reference the ABC Family Batman Begins thing. He fights for family, but he lives for love. So dumb. If you don't know, there's for anyone listening, if you don't know, there's an ABC Family like TV spot promotion for Batman Begins where it's just completely tone deaf. It plays it up as like a cheery kind of happy movie. It's hilarious. But anyway,
is it not?
Oh, I don't think so. Yeah, I mean, there's a couple funny bits, but yeah, it's something that kind of feeds into Bruce's story is that he's doing this because he wants to help the city in his own way, and he wants to kind of, I guess, do right by his family, or he wants to have a legacy, and do good within Gotham. And like, he's taking this on his own, even with the help of Alfred, but it is more of an isolated thing. And I think that's why the opening narration works really well for me, because that communicates how isolated and alone he is in this journey. And it's kind of, I think that is different, is a pretty big difference from the Dark Knight trilogy, because you don't have Bruce saying like in the Dark Knight, you don't have Bruce talking to Alfred and being like, hey, oh, I'm just going to tell them it's all your idea and everything. Like, that's a funny bit from the Dark Knight, but it doesn't feel like it's appropriate for this movie, because it feels like Bruce is more on his own and more compartmentalized in himself, than kind of having a growing, I don't know, roster of accomplices, I guess.
I think that's a good point about how this movie shows how isolated he is. You really feel the overwhelming vastness of Gotham, and get the sense that, he's just one man and he can't be everywhere all at once. And, in the other Batman movies, you get the sense that like he only has one crime to fight at night. Just like one big one. And the rest of the city's fine. But this does show him kind of taking on small time thugs in alleyways, and I thought that was cool. He's trying to put out little fires across the city, and we haven't really seen that all that much before,
right?
We have, but the opening kind of reminded me of the opening of the 1989 Batman, where he's taking on two street thugs, and it's it's very small. He's not saving the world. He's dealing with one small situation at a time, and I thought that was cool to see.
Yeah, I think so too. And that opening segment really does a great job of showing him at street level doing that, with kind of street level criminals and everything, but also showing how his presence has kind of had an impact on Gotham's like crime rate and everything. Like those scenes where you see like criminals that are just looking into the shadows and looking into dark like alleyways and everything. I'm like, that's great at communicating like the fear and the spread of the fear of Batman, and also communicating that like, yeah, he's new at this. He's a novice in comparison to everything else, but like he's still been at this for a couple of years, and his presence is known, and he's still working through it and everything. So it's a great way to bring us into this iteration of the Batman, I think.
Oh yeah, when that montage of criminals looking over their shoulders just gave me goosebumps. I thought that was amazing.
Oh yeah. So in kind of broad terms, and then we can go into spoilers, how did you feel about the Riddler and like his kind of arc through the movie, and how the movie kind of ended up in non-spoilers?
Okay. I think he's terrifying right from the beginning. Unlike, Jim Carrey's Riddler, this guy's a serial killer.
Right.
I think Jim Carrey kills a few people in Batman Forever, but it's so campy that you don't really notice.
Yeah.
But this guy is, Paul Dano's Riddler is pretty brutal. He looks different than any Riddler we've seen before.
Yeah.
He wears this kind of drab green hood with glasses over it, and he wraps his head in plastic wrap for some reason. He has a little question mark symbol that's kind of like the zodiac sign. I thought that was very effective.
Yeah.
I love the um I loved his kind of riddle game with certain characters. There's
Yeah.
one that's particularly frightening, that ends in a pretty drastic way. Like I
Yeah.
said earlier, I felt like he kind of grew weaker as we got to know him more, oddly enough.
Mm-hmm.
He felt like a kind of a smaller presence than he did in the beginning.
Yeah.
But I mean, that could be intentional too, because we see him, without his outfit.
Mm-hmm.
We see him in raw human form, and
Yeah.
he's not as intimidating. And maybe the movie's trying to say something about kind of the masks we wear and the power they have,
Mm-hmm.
and how they, lose their power as we peel them off. I feel like I'm rambling. I'm going to stop
No,
there.
you're fine. Yeah, we can open it up to spoilers here in a second, but yeah, I thought that it was a really engaging villain in that game of cat and mouse. Like I said, is just really, really engaging to me, and there were moments like I said, the variety of it's really cool. We'll talk more on specifics and spoilers. Yeah, and I feel like the movie did a really good job of kind of telling this interesting story about these two men that are on opposite sides, that are kind of influenced by the state of Gotham and the state of Gotham City and everything. So the way that the choices that they make in relation to their experience and their knowledge of the world and of the city is drastically different, but there's some interesting parallels there that we'll get into. But I thought it was great, and I'm really looking forward to the Batman 2 whenever that may come, if they continue this iteration. But yeah. So shall we go into spoilers for the Batman?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So I'm going to play a clip from the trailer, and then once we come back, we're going to go into spoilers for the Batman.
If you are justice, please do not lie. What is the price for your blind eye?
The hell are you supposed to be?
I'm vengeance.
Whoa! This guy's crazy.
All right, so spoilers on for the Batman. And Sam, where shall we begin with the Batman? I just realized I should have probably, I kind of wish I would have taken the time to come up with like a riddle or something for it. But unfortunately I did not. So where do you want to begin with spoilers?
Well, I mean, let's talk about Batman dying first of all.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that was a pretty bold choice. I guess we're not going to have a sequel.
Yeah,
I mean,
well, I did. Okay, so obviously you're joking, but
Yep.
I did have this idea that it would be really, really funny to see a Batman movie where the entire movie is just Bruce Wayne starting out. He's just like, he's getting everything together and getting everything like prepared. And then the first night he goes out to try to fight crime, he just gets killed brutally by someone. And then like the rest of the movie
That's
is like,
hilarious.
Yeah. And like, what if the rest of the movie is just Gotham City being like, the fuck was Bruce Wayne doing in this costume? Like, what? Like, what the hell?
That's
just
amazing.
Yeah, like, just like, how freaking weird would that be?
Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah. But kind of on that note, I was gonna connect that somehow, but I lost it. But anyway, oh yeah, the kind of the way that the movie doesn't really work with, or doesn't really devote and this is a credit to the movie, doesn't really devote equal time to Bruce and Batman. I really appreciated that because it holds back on showing us him as Bruce Wayne for a considerable amount of the movie, and then when he is Bruce Wayne, when he goes to like the funeral, he is like everyone says, like, oh, he's a recluse and he's not like a prominent like member of society. And like I loved that idea because like I kept thinking like, well, yeah, duh. I mean, like he can't possibly like do Bruce Wayne stuff during the day and then Batman stuff at night without like seriously compromising his health, obviously. But but like I just really like the idea of this reclusive billionaire, because like one of the big things with me with Batman is that like, yeah, okay, duh, it's got to be Bruce Wayne, this young billionaire who can fund this project, who's rarely seen, but like having him be like this reclusive person works a little bit better for me in suspending my disbelief for that. So I don't know, how did you feel about the Bruce Wayne aspect of the movie?
Yeah. Well, I think like the Keaton version, this one shows that Bruce Wayne's a fucking weird guy.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a bizarre thing that he's dedicating himself to. He's going out at night dressed as a bat fighting crime. I mean, of course he should be a fucking weird recluse.
Yeah.
You know, you know, obviously there's always been the theme that Bruce Wayne is the real mask.
Yeah.
You know, so I think Bruce Wayne's absence kind of emphasizes that. And like, if we're gonna have a movie called The Batman, give us the fucking Batman.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Oh yeah.
And this movie does, and I really appreciated that.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously I enjoyed Bruce Wayne. I have a little funny anecdote. So one of the trailers shows a mayoral candidate talking to Bruce Wayne about how he hasn't really done anything for the city, despite his parents being famous philanthropists. And when we saw that trailer in the theater, my fiance Jen turned to me with tears in her eyes and said, "He is helping." I thought that was hilarious.
That's awesome.
But yeah, I loved the sort of imbalance between you know, the screen time of him as Bruce Wayne and him as Batman.
Yeah, I was really taken with it too. And yeah, so I'm trying to figure out where to go into. Wow, Gordon. One of the things I loved about it, and this is something I'd been looking forward to in this movie, and in particular, like it's something that I've wanted. Like this is a movie that has two aspects of Batman lore that I've wanted in a Batman movie for a long time, and that is, on one hand, like when The Dark Knight came out, I like my dream for the third installment of that trilogy was to have a Riddler villain patterned after Seven, and have Batman have to investigate. Wow. Yeah, like that was my dream. Like I was so in 2 years after The Dark Knight, when Inception came out, I was like, and that was kind of when Joseph Gordon-Levitt was like, you know, getting big and everything, coming back from like, you know, being a child actor and everything. Like his star was rising, and then he was in Inception. I was like, he's gonna be the Riddler. He's gonna be the freaking Riddler. And then like, yeah, and then he wasn't, but I loved him in The Dark Knight Rises, and I really liked The Dark Knight Rises, but like I always thought like, yeah, that would be an amazing movie. And then like to have this, it's like it's not Christopher Nolan, but it's pretty damn good. I thought that it was just really well done, and it also really hones in on the like world's greatest detective thing, which is something that I've felt was really missing from Nolan's trilogy. Like I think the closest we get to that is The Dark Knight, when he is analyzing the bullet the gunshot from the wall and analyzing the rifling marks or whatever on the bullet and comparing it to casing or whatever. Like that's really cool stuff, but it's one scene in 3 movies. And like to have a whole movie where he is like he's answering riddles and he's looking into like he's investigating. It's like he's at crime scenes and like that dynamic of him like it's so interesting to me that they have all the cops at the scene are all like, well, what the hell are you doing? Like, he can't be here. And then Gordon's like, no, he's cool. It's like, it's just so, it really highlights how freaking bonkers weird Batman is as a concept, that you have like people at a crime scene and like high ranking police officers. Like it's so weird. It's like, I kind of got the vibe that Batman is like Gordon is like similar. The way that it's set up is that like Gordon is similar to like a canine officer and Batman is like his dog, his canine. And like he's
That's
his handler.
Funny. I didn't think of it that way.
Yeah. And like I just kept thinking about that. I was like, that is awesome. And to see them actually working together so closely is like, that's what I want out of the Batman movie, and they delivered on that. So yeah, how did you feel about their dynamic in the movie?
Yeah, I love the canine comparison. That's great.
Thank you.
But I think it does highlight how absurd it is that he's working with Batman. I mean, this guy is basically a stranger.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he doesn't know who he is. He doesn't know his real identity. He's in a mask and a crazy suit. What he's doing on the streets is illegal.
Mm-hmm.
He's, beating the shit out of criminals, which is, maybe for the best, but, it's also assault.
Yeah.
And I think the movie does point out, how crazy that is. And there is, humor.
Mm-hmm.
There's one great line where a police officer, gives Batman shit for touching evidence. And Jim Gordon says something like, he is wearing gloves.
That's right. That was great.
I thought that was great.
Yeah.
And I wanted to mention, I've read some criticisms that this movie is just Batman standing around at crime scenes with people explaining things to him.
Yeah,
that's kind of how detective work. That's just the nature of detective work.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is drawing out information and unpacking it. And he gets in. Yeah.
Sorry, I was just gonna say, like, I recently watched on Netflix Murderville, and like I loved it. It's improv comedy where Will Arnett plays a detective, and each episode he has a different celebrity co-star who's playing a trainee, a detective trainee, and they go to a crime scene and the forensic person is like telling them all the information, and then they have to improv to get to like the solution and everything. It's like it's a staple of detective stories, like just like the delineation of or like delivering information to the detective so that the detective can detect that's a staple of it. So yeah.
Right. And I've the criticism about people explaining things to him, also comes from this idea that he's the world's greatest detective. Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, not yet.
Yeah.
He's only 2 years into his time of being Batman. And
2 years into his world's greatest detective degree.
Right. Yeah, exactly. He still has some studying to do.
Yeah.
And I don't think this movie really depicts Bruce Wayne as some kind of genius. I mean, he's angsty. He has impaired judgment, I would say, based on his mental state. And he would lean on people for information, and he would fuck things up.
Yeah.
I mean, just this idea that well, he gets too many explanations. I mean, look at the Silence of the Lambs. That
Yeah.
movie has a serial killer basically helping a detective solve a
Right.
case. I mean, I just don't really see the difference, I
Yeah.
guess.
Oh, same here. I don't understand that as like because it's not like he's not figuring things out. Like, and I will say that I felt like I don't know. I was like silently cheering myself when they decoded or whatever the coded message and it just said drive. I was like, he took a thumb drive. There's a thumb drive. They're gonna do that. And I was like, yeah, I'm smarter
Right.
than Batman. Or I'm as smart as Batman, or as smart as the Riddler, which is scary. But but yeah, I just thought that was that's part and parcel with the detective genre.
Yeah.
Yeah. And slight tangent, but like I've been thinking about this too a little bit, but how interesting it would be if we actually got like, and maybe there's like in some form or another, maybe this has already been done, but like an actual like live action like 40s era noir Batman thing, like actual
cool.
in that period. That would have been really cool, or that would be really cool.
I think there was a comic. I could be
Nice.
wrong, but I think it was called like Gotham by Gaslight.
Oh yeah.
I think that might have been set in that era.
Nice.
But yeah, I agree. That'd be badass.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I'm looking that up now. And Batman Begins his war on crime in a series of murders by Jack. Oh, okay, it's 1800s. In an alternative Victorian age Gotham City, Batman begins his war on crime while he investigates a new series of murders by Jack the Ripper.
Ooh, that's badass.
That's awesome. And Bruce Greenwood voices Batman, which I love his voice. He is amazing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, Gotham by Gaslight. It is on HBO Max, so I might be watching that soon.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, but anyway, so yeah, the style was really cool in this movie. Yeah. Where were we when I went on that tangent? I can't think. Yeah.
You're talking about decoding.
Oh yeah,
you were
the
just
thumb
talking
drive.
about wanting like the thumb drive, and then you said you wanted like a 40s film noir.
Yes.
Batman.
Okay. Yeah. I'm smarter than Batman. Also, I can't remember what I said 3 minutes ago. But no, I thought that was really cool. I really liked the kind of, like I said, the kind of different set pieces of the Riddler's plan. Yeah, I thought that was really cool. How did you feel about, the overall arc of the Riddler in the movie?
Well, this is the spoiler section, so I'm free to talk about it.
Oh yes.
I love that, like Bruce Wayne, he's an orphan, but an orphan who endured much more severe conditions. He was in a rundown orphanage, whereas Batman was, mourning the loss of his parents in a giant mansion.
Yeah.
I mean, it's unfair to compare their, levels of grief, and I think that's part of what the movie is about. Is the Riddler at one point kind of tries to shame Batman and say, I'm a real orphan, I'm a real victim, and you're just a rich kid, and I think it's showing how similar situations can drive people toward completely different paths. Bruce Wayne's loss led to him becoming Batman, and the Riddler's loss, led to him becoming, a monster.
Yeah.
I mean, Batman in himself is sort of a monster, but one kind of going toward the light of justice, and obviously the Riddler's on the other end. I thought they had a great sort of connection and arc.
Yeah, and it's a really interesting kind of dichotomy that the movie presents, that like I kind of talked about this to you before, on Messenger, but the idea that Riddler is sort of an opposite side of Batman, and that can be construed as kind of well-trodden territory with, Joker and The Dark Knight, but here it's more about it's more about their experience and how their experiences have shaped them while against the backdrop of the corruption of Gotham City and Gotham City as a place. And I found that to be really compelling because it was something that, like, they're both kind of wanting to do the same thing, sort of expose, like they're trying to expose, I don't know. Batman's trying to, instill fear in the criminal element of Gotham, whereas Riddler realizes that the criminal element of Gotham goes all the way up to the top, and there needs to be justice served to that. And like, it's interesting because there's the scene with them coming face to face and talking. It was a little bit shaky for me, but I appreciated it in that it had this interesting segment or this interesting section where Riddler is talking about how, like, oh, we did this together. And then he's like, we're not the same. Like, this isn't the same. Like, we're not, like, we didn't do this together. You're insane. I just thought that was really interesting and everything. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I was going to go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
No. You're good.
I was just going to say, I mean, in a sense, they do it together. I said do it. I said do. With his riddles leading to Carmine Falcone and exposing him. But, you're right. Obviously, they're on, they have wildly different motivations.
Yeah. Yeah. And what I really kind of appreciated about it, and something that I was thinking about today, was how there's this level of frustration. And like, we've been talking about how this is like an angsty Batman, and he is very angsty. He's very isolated and everything. And something that I'm really eager to see this movie again for is the way that Batman and Riddler play out in this movie is really interesting to me, because on one hand you have Batman, who he wants to make a difference in Gotham. Like, that is his goal. And he even says in the opening narration, like, I don't know if this is working. I don't know if this is something that is going to work out for me, or if I'm even making any difference. And then you have Riddler, this psychotic serial killer who's leaving clues, live streaming a murder of an official and everything, and threatening the lives of people. But he is actually the one to make change and do it's this frustration that he is able to, for Batman, that he's like, okay, this fucking crazy person is actually like uncovering this corruption and everything. And it's really subtle, but it's not, I think it's not something that isn't there. Like, it's something that I feel like there's this anxiety, this angstiness within Batman that, there's this vast conspiracy and this corruption that goes very deep and everything that he has no awareness of. Whereas like Batman has spent 2 years just beating up criminals on the street. And it's just, I just found that to be really interesting, the way that dynamic is presented in the movie.
Yeah. And, the movie ends with this really powerful monologue about Batman realizing that he needs to not only instill fear but inspire hope.
Yeah.
And you could consider the monologue, too little, too late, but at the same time, he's still learning.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a great arc too, because he starts off very cold, really only wanting to, quash or squash crime. And in the end, he wants to kind of be a beacon of hope, and for that signal to not just be a warning, but kind of like a light of hope.
Yeah.
I thought that was really effective. I also want to go back a little bit and talk about the Riddler.
Oh yeah.
In terms of his connection to Batman and his experience as an orphan. You said it's kind of tired territory now for the villain to have kind of a connection, sort of a mental connection to Batman in terms of what they've endured. And I agree. Yeah. But at the same time, I think it's great that most of Batman's villains have all had some kind of trauma that turned them into, what they are.
Yeah.
In Tim Burton's Batman Returns, the Penguin is also an orphan.
Yeah.
So
in Joker had to work with Todd Phillips. So yeah.
So I think it's great that no one in his rogues gallery is just pure evil. Even the Joker in the Dark Knight, you get a sense that this guy had some kind of rough upbringing or something.
Every version of his backstory is steeped in trauma of some kind.
And they're all believable. Every story he tells about how he got his scars is believable.
Yeah. And you mentioning that, Matt Reeves has said that he wants to do Mr. Freeze at some point, and man, that would be interesting. That would be interesting. I'm just thinking about that, Mr. Freeze's backstory and everything. Yeah, which I always it's weird, in my head, and I don't know. I've heard this talked about before, but in my head, I'm like, okay, well, he was a doctor, and then he became a supervillain, and now he's just Mr. Freeze. It's just
he's not Dr. Freeze anymore.
Yeah.
I never thought about that. That's really funny.
I like that. I have lost sleep some nights about that.
There's a Batman the Animated Series episode that I think would make for a great movie, and that's Heart of Ice.
Yes.
It's basically Mr. Freeze's origin story. It's about him trying to cure his wife, and how that how her illness embittered him.
Yeah.
It made him bitter and cold.
Nice.
Yeah, but
you
can't possibly top Batman and Robin.
Of course.
Can't put Arnold in the cooler.
Yeah.
So
nice.
Matt Reeves needs to chill.
Yeah. But yeah, I really like the kind of, I like that we got something about, we do get backstory and everything for villains throughout different iterations of Batman and everything, but I really like this one. I thought this one was a good way to make it be the introductory villain of this version of Batman, is a good way to kind of reflect the experience of Bruce Wayne and the experience of Batman, and have it put a twisted mirror in front of it, when that this is the first entry in what will probably be a franchise or probably be multiple movies. And they make such a concentrated effort not to make a movie, not to make another origin story. So getting those pieces of information about Bruce through the way that Riddler is kind of explained is really cool, kind of nice and subtle screenwriting, I thought.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. We haven't talked much about Catwoman. How did you feel about Zoe Kravitz and her arc in the movie?
Yeah. She is thrown into the crime story in a much more personal way. Her friend goes missing, and in Batman cares about the bigger picture, exposing corruption, defeating the Riddler, and Catwoman really only cares about finding her friend. And I thought that was a great kind of, I thought their missions contrasted each other nicely. You later find out that Selena Kyle has a connection to Carmine Falcone. She's his daughter.
Yeah.
So I thought her having a familial connection to the mob was a really powerful choice. And she has to still serve these people at the Iceberg Lounge.
Yeah. That hit me as a surprise. Like that was a pretty good surprise for me. I wasn't expecting that connection to come up.
Yeah. And you get a sense that she's kind of losing hope a little bit as she has seen these police officers in these clubs run by the mob.
Yeah.
There's just corruption everywhere. I really enjoyed the dynamic between her and Batman. I thought they had, I mean, it's subtle, but I think they have kind of a humorous chemistry. They're a bit of an odd couple. She's very unpredictable. Like Batman, she's kind of a loose cannon. She makes some poor decisions. She flies off the handle. I thought that was great.
She acts more on instinct and, dare I say, curiosity, because of cats.
That would kill her.
Yeah.
There's one really funny scene where Batman is basically having a Zoom meeting with her, and she's not on camera. It's just her cat licking the screen. I thought that was fucking hilarious.
That was great.
As someone with 5 cats myself,
nice.
Who has been interrupted in Zoom meetings. But yeah, I loved Catwoman. I don't know necessarily how I would rank the Catwomen at this point. I mean, she's nowhere close to Halle Berry. So, I wouldn't even say the Batman is as close to the Halle Berry Catwoman movie. I mean, it's just an underrated gem. So yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Honestly, I've never seen Catwoman.
I've seen bits and pieces.
Yeah.
It's quite bad.
Yeah. So I've heard. But
it's like a Revlon ad that happens to have fight scenes. It's really weird.
Wow. Okay.
I think she even works for like a makeup company. It's a fucking weird movie.
Wow. I will have to check it out eventually, I'm sure. Oh God. But yeah. Something. There's this pretty big stretch of a part of the movie. A big stretch of a part of the movie where I saw someone online. I can't remember who it was, but someone referred to it as kind of a Mission Impossible like section of the movie, where she's doing her cocktail waitress thing, and Batman is observing her. He gives her the contact lenses, and he's watching, and he's gathering information and everything. It's a sting operation, and I thought that was really cool. That was really tense and a good way to kind of communicate a lot of information to us. But also, there's not as much of a focus on the tech or the gadgets in this movie, and when it is, it really plays to that grimy aesthetic. And I really thought it was really cool. Like those contact lenses, and like after his first night in the movie, when he goes and he just replays the video and stuff, I'm like, that's of course he's gonna have like video of everything, 'cause he can't keep everything, like yeah. So I don't know. So I guess 2-part question: how'd you feel about the technology, and how did you feel about that section of the movie with Catwoman going through and talking to people?
Well, first of all, if he's the world's greatest detective, he shouldn't have to go back and look at video footage. What the fuck?
Right.
I mean, God damn it. He has to, ask people questions. He has to watch video footage. I mean, Jesus Christ, this guy's fucking lazy.
Yeah.
I'm kidding. I thought those were really cool.
Yeah.
And I hadn't really made the Mission Impossible connection.
I wish I could remember who said that, but yeah.
Yeah, when she's going through the club, and trying to ID these officers. And I love how the technology is kind of crappy. Like she has to look at them for 5 seconds straight to get their facial recognition.
Yeah.
I loved that. I would have to say, delighted to see Peter Sarsgaard.
Oh, me too.
He's always welcome.
Oh, absolutely.
What a pleasant. I didn't expect him to be in it.
Me neither.
So happy to see him. I thought his little role was great. He wasn't on screen very long, but I thought he was great. He's kidnapped by the Riddler, and he has a bomb strapped to his neck, and he has to answer a series of riddles. And I thought that sequence was so intense and so cool.
That was really, that was a high point for me in the movie too. I thought that whole section was really cool.
Yeah. And I love that Selena has that, she can kind of infiltrate the criminal world. I thought that was cool. Obviously that's not something, Batman can do. He has trouble getting into these clubs, even as Bruce Wayne.
Yeah.
I thought that was interesting.
Yeah. That's something that I really enjoyed. I was trying to find that comparison to Mission Impossible, but I can't find it. I think it was on Letterboxd. But anyway, something that I really was into in this was the way something that I've thought about a lot is a lot of people are saying like, okay, this is very similar in tone to the Nolan movies and yada yada yada. To a certain extent, yeah. I mean, it's a gritty, realistic Batman movie. So yeah, obviously those comparisons are going to be just ripe for the plucking. But the thing that I really enjoyed about this is, again, to go back to that isolated, angsty Bruce Wayne Batman dynamic and have that be compared to Nolan, where, I mean, Batman Begins is him forming his vigilante stuff, and he is relying on other people. And like, he has Lucius Fox, he has Alfred, and he's testing all the equipment and everything. But here you have him completely like a complete loner, and like to a certain extent, because Alfred helps with his spotty Spanish translation, but it's still you get the sense that he's an isolated person. And that is something that I kind of grapple with a little bit, that I kind of struggle with, because one of my favorite things about Batman from reading the New 52 and from playing the Arkham games is that Batman, he has like you said, he has an amazing rogues gallery, but he also, like, the Bat family is amazing. Like I love like the dynamic of all those characters. But the movie doesn't it doesn't concern itself with that, obviously, but I'm okay with that because this is a new tone for Batman, and that angsty, like, isolated thing really works well when you're working with a character who is 2 years into his crime fighting and very much trying to figure out, like, is this helping? Like, am I doing it? It just works really well for me.
Yeah. And that goes back to how weird Bruce Wayne is. I mean, if he were sane, he would use his wealth to help the city in very obvious ways. But, he makes a bizarre choice of dressing as a bat and going out at night and just beating people to a bloody pulp. I mean, this is a weird guy.
Yeah. Even in that front, or in that case, like, it even shows the movie itself, like, when it uncovers, like, the truth about the, whatever the fund was that was being, just picked over by everyone after the Waynes were murdered and everything. Everyone wanted to wet their beaks and everyone wanted a piece of the pie. But, that even shows, like, okay, yeah, even if he used his money, like, the Waynes have already tried that and it didn't work. It's
right.
just,
yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, and it's really, I don't know, it's interesting to me. But yeah, sorry, I think I cut you off. But what were you gonna say?
No, that's all right. What was I going to say? I don't know.
Okay,
lost it.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah. How did you feel about the uncovering of the conspiracy and everything and all of that? Like, how the whole arc kind of came about and everything? Like, the whole thing behind it all.
I thought that was really interesting. That, you see the Wayne's, dirty secrets.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, Bruce, holds his parents up as these saint-like figures, and I think most of us do that with loved ones we've lost. As soon as they die, they were a total saint, no flaws whatsoever. And he's 2 years into this thing that was basically prompted by his parents' death.
Mm-hmm.
So for him to see these really troubling flaws in his parents, I thought was really interesting.
Yeah, and sowing doubt within him too is really interesting. An interesting way for the Riddler to kind of, not intentionally, I don't think, but to just kind of get under his skin in an interesting way.
Yeah, and I think there's a suggestion that, first of all, his father has someone killed, or had someone killed, and Batman, his world is rocked from that, and he doesn't really know how to move forward. But there's this suggestion that he's not that much better than his father.
Yeah,
what he's doing is a little morally dubious. I mean, he's going out at night and beating people nearly to death.
That was one of the things that I really loved about that opening segment, is that after he has just completely just obliterated that gang and everything, the victim of the mugging is even like, "Oh, please don't hurt me. Don't hurt me." Like, right. I thought that was really cool.
And he doesn't really assure him of anything. He stands there stoically and silently. So he's not even comforting the person he was trying to protect. Yeah. You get the sense that he was, of course he was trying to protect him, but he was also just unleashing pure anger.
Oh, absolutely.
So I thought that was really interesting. In the beginning, it's like, for him, it's really just a nightly catharsis, and by the end, he's truly helping people and giving them hope, rather than just instilling fear.
Yeah, you might say that before he decided, or before he is like coming to terms with having hope, there was something in the way. That's the song, which I'm so glad that they included that in the movie, because it fits really well, I think. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I thought that was fucking great.
Yeah.
And kind of felt like a personal love letter to me as like a total 90s nerd.
Nice. A couple other things, and we can kind of start winding down a little bit, but the Batmobile sequence, I will say, first and foremost, probably definitely my favorite Batmobile. It's
wow.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And I mean, I think it's just because I'm a fan of like that American muscle kind of body and everything, but like, sure. I don't know. It's just, there's something so unique about it. Like, I remember when like Batman Begins was about to come out, and I remember reading on like the IMDb message boards, like, oh, this is the Batmobile. Like, what? Like, it looks like a tank or whatever. And they even say that in the movie, but like here it's like, yeah, why wouldn't he have just like a big souped up just muscle car. Like I don't know. There's something about that feels so, it also kind of plays into it being like just such an American kind of thing. Like he's like Gotham City is New York City, basically. It's any metropolis kind of city, but metropolitan city, I guess. But it's just Batman is so American, I guess, and it just like that sense of just having an American muscle car as you know, his transportation and his Batmobile is really cool. Also intimidation factor, like the sound of it's really cool. But anyway, I kind of struggled with it a little bit because there's like one set piece with the Batmobile that's really cool where he's chasing Penguin. And it has like one of my favorite lines in the trailer and in the movie is like when you hear Penguin like cackling, saying like, "Oh, this guy's crazy." Like when I first saw that in the trailer, I was like, that feels like this is such an interesting meld of comic book kind of adventure or comic book action with like gritty realism, dark tone stuff. But I thought that sequence was really cool, but it felt like, to me, it felt like it was just checking off a box. Like, okay, we need a scene with the Batmobile, so let's have them, let's have Batman chase Penguin across the like across the city and kind of contrive a way to get that into place. So that felt a little bit cumbersome in terms of the plotting, but I thought it was really cool the way it looked. So I can't really complain.
First of all, pull your head out of your ass.
I will say the resolution of that with the car flipped over and Penguin's point of view of upside down and Batman coming out with the fire behind him, like that, again, that red glow, so freaking cool. Like just really cool.
Oh, that shot's incredible.
Oh yeah.
I'm actually going to offer a bit of a counter argument that I wasn't planning on.
Okay.
I would say it actually does work in an organic way because they're making a drug deal.
Yes, I think so. Yeah. It's like yeah.
And they drive to the place.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I thought it made sense for them to drive away.
It does make sense, I guess. I think that.
What the fuck are you talking about?
I don't know.
No, just kidding.
No, it does make sense, and I do think, if I'm remembering correctly, I might be wrong, but I feel like that was the moment where it wasn't necessarily like they were going to a drug bust or anything, but they were going, like, that was Batman figuring out, like, oh, the Maroni crime organization is like, that didn't end the drug trade in Gotham. Like, it's still thriving. So like, I appreciated it for that. It's just like, I don't know. I kind of felt like, okay, well, when that is a really cool reveal of the Batmobile.
To be fair, I'll give you this. I don't think you see him arrive in the car. I think you just see him like looking through like a glassed rooftop at the drug deal happening. So you don't really know how he got there. So I'll give you that.
That's true. That's true. Yeah. But also it just feels like, I mean, this is like just minor nitpicks here, but it just felt like, oh, okay, well, he's revving the engine, he's turning on the car, he's making his presence known, and like no one is, it's not like Penguin jumped into a car and is fleeing right now. It's like they're still like firing at them, which also that does make sense though, because I mean they're kind of surrounded and they're, you know, getting fired upon and everything, and so yeah, that makes sense that they would flee that way. So yeah, I don't think it's that, maybe it's not as contrived as my memory has it. But yeah,
I thought the use of the theme, the Batman theme in that sequence is so exciting.
Oh,
and I have to say that, and I've had it stuck in my head since the screening.
Yeah, I've been humming it since that morning.
I think this is the best Batman theme since Danny Elfman's.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't really remember the Dark Knight theme.
Yeah, all I remember
I can't
is
hum it in my head.
Yeah, I remember the Joker theme in that, because that I remember seeing like a special feature or something that it was like Hans Zimmer talking about how, like, I think it was literally like he just literally like had like the like and he wanted to just utilize like the F note or whatever, and like it's just having that note play for an extended period, like that's the beginning of the Dark Knight, is just him holding on to the F note, and it's just like and just humming throughout it. But yeah, I know that there is yeah, okay, yeah, I'm like Batman's kind of theme, I think, is like in the Dark Knight trilogy, I don't think it really comes out that much until the Dark Knight. It's that watchful guardian is the track, I think, where it's like doom 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 doom, like that plays over the credits. I don't know, but anyway, it's I will say that the music here, like Michael Giacchino, I've been a huge fan of his for decades at this point. Like he did all of the music for Lost, which is one of my favorite shows of all time, and he's done several Pixar movies, which cut right to my soul, no pun intended. But yeah, I have long said that, like, okay, Michael Giacchino has like a direct, like his musical talent has like a direct line into like my heart, like, and my soul. Like he knows how to manipulate my emotions in very distinct ways. Like the track that plays over the beginning of the series finale of Lost is like my favorite piece of music written for television of anything I've ever seen. And it's like instant tears. Like, it's incredible. And so him doing the score for the Batman, like that theme for Batman is really great. I do think I do think that it's not as amazing as the Batman the Animated Series music is, but it's damn close to it, in my opinion. Yeah.
Yeah, it's quite an earworm. I love it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And another little thing about Michael Giacchino is I also feel like I would get along very well with him, because his the track titles for his music in like anything is so fun and filled with puns. Like there is like the opening track of the Batman soundtrack is Can't Fight City Halloween, and it's like just a play on City Hall, but like also,
that's funny.
Yeah, and also like it's goofy, it's kind of cheesy, but it's fun. But he has one track that, and we can talk about this element of the plot as well, but he has one track that's called World's Worst Translators.
That's funny.
That I guess plays over where they realize that their Spanish is a little off. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed that scene where Penguin is kind of needling them about that. How'd you feel about that development of the story?
Yeah, so there's one of the Riddler's clues is something like El Rata Lata, the rat with wings.
Yeah.
And they find out that it would actually be La Rata, whatever the fuck it is.
Yeah.
But anyway, and the Penguin explains that to them. He says something like, "You don't know the difference between L and La," and I guess I could see how you could find that stupid, but like it's literally played for a laugh.
Yeah. Oh
and
yeah.
It's funny.
Yeah.
I mean, I think if it weren't played for a laugh, then it would be embarrassing.
Oh yeah. Oh totally.
But it's clearly meant to be comedic. I mean, he even says like, wow, you guys are the world's greatest detectives.
Yeah.
I
loved that. I loved that so much.
Yeah, I mean, I've I could see criticisms of people saying like, wow, this one shows that Batman's a horrible detective. And it's like, well, it was clearly meant to be comedic.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, absolutely. Also, I like that it is playing up the fact that like there are 3 characters whose names and monikers can be construed as like a rat with wings. There's Batman, there's Penguin, and there's Falcone.
Right.
I kind of love that. Yeah, so to kind of start to wind down, let's talk about the finale of the movie. The big Riddler closing like plan. How did you feel about it? He, bombs the city's, like, I don't know, floodgates and everything, and floods, Gotham Square Arena or whatever, where they're having the mayor-elect give speeches and everything. So how did you feel about that whole section and that how it ended and concluded?
I thought that was a really great set piece. I think it was actually shot in Chicago's, I think it's called Thompson Center.
Oh, nice.
And just ending in a huge stadium, was cool. I guess you could argue that, there's a stadium sequence in The Dark Knight Rises as well. I think it's a football stadium, but whatever. Who fucking cares? And flooding the city I thought was great, kind of metaphorically, because he's wanting to wash away the corruption. And I think the Wayne Fund is called like the Renewal Fund. He talks about how the city is undergoing this renewal, and I think it works on kind of a symbolic level with the flooding. Batman fights a lot of people, and I've heard it described as just kind of ending as a punch fest. And it's like, well, it is a Batman movie and it's an action movie, so what do you expect?
And here's the thing. So and I kind of thought about this too a little bit today. The whole idea of Riddler having like kind of Riddler minions, or having like a gang of Riddler people. I thought that was really, really interesting. And I thought that it was interesting because it's, first of all, for this reason is twofold. One is that this movie was made in 2020 and it was in production in 2020, and I don't know, but also Halloween Kills was made in 2020 it was supposed to have a 2020 release date and everything. Both of these movies that were made before the January 6th insurrection on the US Capitol, some would accurately call it a domestic terrorist attack and an attack on our democratic process. But that, like, having these two movies deal with mob mentality and radicalization, and I found that to be really, really compelling. And this is something that in the Batman, I found that to be really interesting of a thing. And it's something that's probably going to be done a lot in movies, just because of the state of the world we're in and everything. But I just found it to be an interesting way to incorporate kind of modern things in Batman to an extent, like having Riddler be during this whole thing be radicalizing people through the internet who feel like they are
during an election.
Yeah, exactly. And like him radicalizing these people, making them want to go do violence and try and kill people and assassinate people is just really, really interesting to me. Yeah, and I felt like it was a very organic way to have that big kind of beat 'em up thing, because Riddler is not like a fighter or anything. Like he's he's Batman's Mr. Glass from Unbreakable. Like he's pulling strings. Yeah.
I think that's I'm sorry to interrupt.
Oh no, you're good. I was rambling.
I think that's a fascinating point, and the fact that the movie was supposed to come out before the insurrection, and it turned out to be, so prophetic.
Yeah,
is really interesting. I hadn't made the Halloween Kills comparison either.
Yeah.
I think that's very astute.
nice.
But it's weird how the kind of serendipitous timing of that, and this isn't nearly as interesting, but another kind of timing coincidence is that this coming out in 2022 as the Bat, the Cat, the Penguin. 30 years ago we had Batman Returns.
Oh wow,
with that trio, and I just thought that was cool how that timing worked out.
Nice.
Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah, I really need to go back and just watch all of that. Did you ever watch the original 66 series? Like at all?
I've seen bits and pieces.
Okay.
I've seen the movie. I loved that as a kid. I loved the shark repellent. It's a lot of fun. I definitely, and it's funny. I actually saw like a roundtable interview with the cast of Batman.
Nice.
And they were talking about how when they were kids, and I felt this same way, that series wasn't campy. It was like life or death. It was serious to them, and I felt that same way as a kid.
Nice. Huh. Yeah, I've
you're like super garbled on my screen.
Oh, really? Oh, sorry.
Oh, okay, here we go.
Okay, there we go.
Now.
Yeah.
Thought the Riddler was cutting in with the video.
Yeah. Yeah, so we can kind of start winding down then. Overall thoughts on the Batman, and where do you want to see this kind of franchise go if they make more, like Robert Pattinson and Matt Reeves have said they want to?
I would actually kind of like to see it branch out into a streaming series.
Oh, nice. I think they have like one or two in production, or like in the works. One focusing on Penguin and one focusing on Gordon, I think.
See, yeah, because I would love something to focus on Penguin and kind of the whole his crime element. I think that would be really interesting to see.
Yeah.
I'm curious how this one's going to do.
Me too.
It's basically 3 hours long. It's dark. It's gritty. It's and I guess I'll close on the fact that I really didn't find this that similar to the Nolan movies.
Yeah.
I think right from the beginning, I mean, it opens on Halloween night with this noir narration.
I love that.
That feels
so
nothing
much
like the Nolan movies.
No.
And it's constantly raining. It's it's gothic. It's angsty. I really don't get the idea that this just kind of a Nolan cash in, other than the fact that it's dark. I think it's a different type of dark and gritty. And I actually don't think it's that realistic. I think it has kind of a surreal quality.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed it. I would love to see more, especially in some kind of series. So yeah. Nice.
Yeah, I am in full agreement. I can't wait to see what they do next with this. I was just so into it. And now that you've put it in my head that it's very Blade Runner-esque in terms of like all the rain and everything, like even like the contact lens thing, that felt like a Blade Runner type of thing. Like that level of tech and everything. So I'm super excited to see this again and hopefully not die on my way there or in the theater or fall out of the shower the day of or whatever. But I'm super excited to see it again and kind of pick it apart that way. I really loved it. I'm pumped on it. So yeah.
Awesome. So am I.
Yeah. All right. Well, I am starving So I think,
Me too.
yeah, I think if you don't mind, we're going to forego potpourri and everything. And do you mind if we just
this was a big one anyway.
Yeah.
So.
Oh yeah. So once again, first of all, thank you so much, Sam, for joining me again on Obsessive Viewer and chatting with me. It's always a pleasure. And I will always hold your Batman figure while you go to the bathroom after a screening.
Thank you. I'm just going to bring him to everything now.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Once again, why don't you tell people where they can find you online and your work and everything, and anything you have in the pipeline.
Yeah. Once again, you can find my reviews at midwestfilmjournal.com or follow me on Letterboxd at Sam Movie Man. And next up, I will have an essay for the Midwest Film Journal's Batman series, Bats on the Brain, and I'll be writing about Batman Forever. So you can look forward to checking that out.
Hell yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you once again, Sam. And once again, to our listeners, you can find more of our work at obsessiveviewer.com and more of our podcasts at obsessiveviewer.com/podcasts. And please consider joining our Patreon at patreon.com/obsessiveviewer, where we have a lot of stuff there. So once again, thank you so much, Sam. And we'll definitely have to have you back soon. So yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. All right, that'll do it. I'm going to go ahead and play us out here. Thank you guys so much for listening, and we'll see you next time. And now, here's a short clip from our Patreon exclusive RSS feed. To hear the full clip and more exclusive Patreon content, go to patreon.com/obsessiveviewer and become a patron at the minimum rate of $1 per month. Thank you and enjoy. But this is a goofy horror comedy that is 100% a vehicle for this rock band to just have a good time and have fun. And what I'm kind of going to probably wrestle with here is that I overall enjoyed this movie. I'm probably going to rate it 2.5 stars, just right in the middle of the rating scale. And that's not to say it's bad, it's not to say it's good, it's just to say that I enjoyed the time that I spent watching it and will likely never watch it again. And it's fine. It was enjoyable at what it did. It's an enjoyable horror romp.
This podcast was edited and produced by Matt Hurt and presented by ObsessiveViewer.com. You can find links to all of our shows at obsessiveviewer.com/podcasts. For exclusive bonus content, including reviews, commentaries, and B-roll episodes, you can subscribe to our Patreon at patreon.com/obsessiveviewer. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode.